What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of High Mythology, the show where we get higher than the cost of living and
So true.
tell you guys silly stories from mythology and folklore.
Yes.
Tonight, we're going to be doing some more Russian fairy tales.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are always interesting,
Thank
I feel like. Do we have a Baba Yaga tonight?
No.
Do we got any Baba in there? No Baba.
No. And the wife's really nice too.
the wife's really nice.
She's very supportive.
She's the opposite of a Baba Yaga.
Yeah. Sorry.
Her tits don't even drag on the floor.
We do have a Jafar.
Yeah.
Maybe one or two Jafars.
Didn't you say one of these is pretty much like Russian Ali Babba and the 40
Yeah.
Thieves? Yeah.
This is a story that ties the two. It's actually called
Vladimir Kushtov and the 40 Scoundrels.
I was going to say Vladimir.
I know. You gotta. It's just the most Russian name you could possibly go with.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Ivar.
Ivar, yeah. No,
And
that's
Igor.
kind of Viking. It's all Viking, little Russian Viking, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Igor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, first story.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Russian names that we can think of. Yeah.
The Wise Maiden and the Seven Robbers.
Oh, there we go.
Once upon a time, there was a peasant who had two sons. The younger one traveled and the elder one stayed at home. Before the father died, he bequeathed all that he had to his elder son and left nothing to the younger one, thinking that a brother would surely not wrong a brother.
Sure. I like how he did that too. He had the opportunity to make it right, and he's just like, no, my
Leave it to
dying wish is to say,
Figure it out.
fuck the young guy. He travels too much. He makes it seem like it's like, fancy traveling, like he's walking about learning stuff. Dude's been to Cancun 7 times.
All in the same month.
Yeah, when you're 30, bro, it's time to stop spring breaking.
Yeah. I would say you should stop sooner, but that's the thing.
Yeah, I'd say you should cut that off way earlier, but...
The elder son buried his father and kept all of the inheritance. The second son returned and wept bitterly on finding that his father had died. His brothers said to him,
Oh, our father left everything to me alone, fucker.
and yet his brother had no children, while the younger brother had a son of his own, and they adopted a daughter together along the road because their parents had died. And so they accepted her into their home. We're going to call the guy Ivar,
Ivar.
just so you know.
Yeah, Ivar
He
the
doesn't give me a name,
bonerless.
just keeps
'cause
calling him peasant.
he couldn't get it up
Peasant.
anymore.
Shame.
Shame.
Anyway, and so the elder brother took all of the inheritance and grew rich and began to trade in precious goods, while the younger brother was poor, chopped wood, and carted it to the market. His neighbors, pitying his poverty, took up a collection for him and offered him money. GoFundMe.
GoFundMe, yeah.
To enable him to at least set himself up as a retail merchant.
The older brother started trading in the finest NFTs.
I was going to say the MILFs.
Yeah.
He became a prostitute,
He
Bar.
became a prostitute. He started selling his sphincter.
Ivar was afraid and said to them,
Bro, my good neighbors. No, I won't take your money. Like, should I suffer some losses in trade and shit? Like, who's gonna pay the fucking debt to you, bro?
Then two of his neighbors determined to give him money by a stratagem. One day, when the poor man went to get wood, one of these neighbors contrived to meet him by taking a detour and said,
Oh, I had just left the house for a distant voyage. When someone who owed me 300 rubles met me on the way and paid me. Now I don't know where to put the rubles. It's so many rubles. Why do we make our coins so big and heavy? I don't want to return home, so please just take it and keep it for me, or rather trade with it. I won't be back for a long while, and you can pay me back later, little by little.
The poor man took the money, brought it home, and was afraid that he might lose it or that his wife might find it and spend it instead of his own money. He thought and finally hid it in a wooden tub full of ashes. While he was away, traders who bought ashes and paid for them in goods came to his house, and his wife exchanged the tub of ashes for some goods. When the husband returned and saw that the tub was gone, he asked his wife,
Bro, where's my ashes? Dude, where are my ashes?
and his wife answered,
Oh, I sold them to the traders so I could get a couple of scratches. Bro, those were my grandma's ashes.
He was very frightened and very unhappy, but kept silent nonetheless. His wife saw that he was sad and began to press him to tell her what misfortune had befallen him and why he was so distressed.
Just hearing ashes makes me instantly assume it was someone's ashes.
Well, he charcoal.
Yeah.
Shit.
So it was like,
Chopped
what, do they
wood.
come by? And she's like, yeah, I have plenty of things for sale. I have this jam I made yesterday. I'm selling some apples.
Picked it from my toes.
My mother-in-law's ashes. I'll sell you those.
Jesus.
The bitch looked down on me a whole life. I'm not gonna have her do it in death.
He confessed that some money that did not belong to him was hidden in the ashes. His wife grew angry, shouted, and wept, and she said,
I thought I told you the best way to save your money is to put it into scratches or crypto. Those are the only safe ways. Why didn't you just trust me? Trust me, I would have invested it in some type of meme coin, and we would be rich by now.
Again, the peasant went for wood to sell at the market that he might buy bread.
He was prostituting. Like, well, I guess I gotta go sling my wood down at the market.
Another of his neighbors overtook him, told him the same thing as the first, and gave him 500 rubles to keep for him. The poor man refused to take them, but the neighbor forced the money into his hand and rode away. The money was in bills, and our poor man thought and thought about where to put it, and finally it struck under the lining of his cap. He came to the forest, hung his cap on a pine tree, and began to chop wood. As ill luck would have it, a raven snatched his cap with the money in it and flew away. The peasant was sad, but resigned himself to his fate.
It was seen giving him the middle claw on its way out. It somehow said loser.
He lived as before, traded in wood and other cheap things, and somehow struggled along. The neighbors waited for some time and then realized that the poor man had not improved. They asked him,
just the selling wood. I do just keep imagining him prostituting himself.
Jesus Christ, Dustin.
Are you unsuccessful in your trade, brother? Or are you afraid that you'll lose your money? If so, you'd better give it back to us.
The poor man wept and told them how he had lost the money.
Bro.
His neighbors did not believe him and brought the matter to court. The judge thought,
well, how shall I decide this case? This peasant is a peaceful man, but penisless. Sorry, penniless. Also penisless. That's why they call him Ivar the Bonerless.
oh, jeez.
He has nothing that can be taken from him. If I send him to prison, his family will die out of starvation.
The judge was sitting by the window, sunk in meditation, when he was distracted by some boys playing in the street. One of the boys, an alert little fellow, said,
I will be the burgomaster. You can come to me with your case and I will judge them. I don't know what the fuck's the burgomaster.
Burgomaster.
Burgomaster. The Jägermeister. Jaeger bombs, bro.
He sat on a stone, and another boy approached him, bowed to him, and said,
I loaned money to this peasant, and he has not paid me back. I have come to your honor to complain about him.
The burgomaster asked.
Did you borrow money from him?
The defendant said,
I did.
The judge asks,
Then why didn't you pay it back, you piece of shit?
The defendant says,
I don't have anything to play back. You already took my G.I. Joes, you little asshole.
The next boy said,
Listen, plaintiff. The defendant does not deny having borrowed money from you. It's that you can't pay. You fucking just take him. You give them debt for 5 or 6 years or something.
extend the term of debt.
Yeah, by that time he might have money so he can pay the debt back. Do you agree?
With interest.
With interest.
The boy said,
Thank you, little father. We agree.
the two boys bowed to the burgomaster, and left.
See, I got you. The Burgermeister.
The judge heard all of this and was overjoyed and said,
Well, these here boys have enlightened me. I will tell the plaintiffs to give the poor man an extension of time based on something I saw children do outside the window. I'm a good judge.
Upon his advice, the rich neighbors agreed to wait for 2 or 3 years in hopes that by then the peasant would have bettered his lot. The poor man again went to the forest for wood and chopped half a cartful, and then that night came.
It's a good thing the judge didn't see something else outside the window. He saw the kids perfectly, and it's like, I looked out the window and I saw a turkey get hit by a car. So it made me think and reflect on this case. All of y'all are going to hit the man with your car while he wears turkey feathers.
He remained in the woods, intended to return home in the morning with the full cart. He wondered where he would spend the night, and the forest was deserted and teeming with wild beasts. If he laid beside his horse, they might devour him. So he went deeper into the thicket and climbed into a big pine tree. At night, 7 robbers came and said, Open, open, little gate.
Hey, open sesame!
At once the little gate leading underground opened, and the robbers carried their loot and was all hidden. And then said, Close, close, little gate.
It'd be like, instead of sesame, they would use something Russian, like, open, beat.
Das war da.
Yeah. Glorskin von Furfen Flurfen.
And the gate was closed, and the robbers left to get more loot. The peasant saw all of this, and when everything around him was quiet, he climbed down from the tree thinking,
Bro, maybe those gates will open for me, too.
He had no sooner said,
Sup, little gate? Open, open.
and it opened.
Sweet.
He entered the cave and saw piles of gold, silver, and all sorts of valuable objects lying about. The poor man rejoiced, and at daybreak began dragging away bags of money. He threw away his wood, loaded his cart with silver and gold, and hastened home. His wife went out to meet him and said,
Oh, husband, I nearly banged one of the neighbors waiting for you in grief. I mean, died. I did, of that. That's what happened. Of grief. It was the grief. It's why I almost banged both of the neighbors. I made her
into an asshole. She seemed so nice.
Yeah. I was worrying about you, and I thought that a tree had fallen on you. Maybe some wild beasts had devoured you, and I actually pictured the last one a lot.
But Ivar happily said,
Brah, cheer up. Like, we've got luck and shit. Like, I found all this gold. Check it out. Help me carry these bags inside. We can invest in mad crypto now.
After the bags were carried in, he went to his rich brother, told him about everything, and invited him to accompany him on another trip to the cave. The brother agreed, and they went together to the woods to find the pine tree. And he cried,
Like, what's up, little gate? Open, open.
And the little gate opened.
Sweet.
They set about dragging out bags of money, and the poor brother filled his cart and was satisfied. But the rich brother could not tear himself away. He said,
Oh, yeah there, little brother. You know you have to go home, and maybe I'll follow you back after there.
But Ivar said,
Sweet. But, like, don't forget to say, like, close, little gate.
And his brother said, 2 words.
I won't dare. Don't worry.
The poor man left, but the rich man could not get enough of the treasure. It was impossible to take everything at once, and to leave it was a pity. Night overtook him, and in the same place the robbers arrived, found him in the cave, and cut off his head. They removed their bags from the carts, put the slain man in it, and lashed it to the horse and set it loose. The horse ran about the woods and brought him home. The robber chieftain and the robber who had killed the rich brother, he said to, sorry.
He said to them, art thou?
The chieftain still told the murderer,
Why did you kill him prematurely? You're always premature. You should have asked him first if it was okay if you killed him. We don't like to do things without consent. We're robbers, man.
where he lived.
Oh, yes, find out where he lived, too, for much of our shit is gone now, and he probably took it, and we could have followed the horse, but you didn't even do that, you imbecile.
The chieftain's assistant says,
Let the man who killed him look for him.
And shortly afterward, the murderer began to scout for the gold. He came to the poor man's little store, and he bought a thing or two. Noticed the storekeeper was dejected, and asked him,
Why are you so sad?
Ivar answered,
Bro, like, my older brother, like, I think someone killed him, or, like, he lost his head somewhere, because, like, he was gone, and he came back, and, like, now he doesn't have a head. And, like, the day before yesterday, his horse was like, hey, bro, here's your brother, and I was like, dude, you forgot his head, and now he's buried, and, like, we still don't know.
The robber saw that he was on the right track and pretended to be very sorry, began to investigate. Upon learning that the slain man had left a widow, he asked,
Does his widow have at least a roof over her head?
Ivar says,
Bro, like, totally. She's got a fucking sweet house, bro.
The murderer said,
Where? Show it to me.
The peasant showed him his brother's house, and the robber took some red paint and marked his door. Ivar asked,
Sweet. But, like, what's that for, though?
and he answered,
I want to help the widow, and I have made this sign in order to find her house more easily at night.
Ivar said,
Okay, bro, it's weird that you whispered the last part directly into my ear, but, like, brother, my sister-in-law, like, needs no help. Like, she's pretty strong, and, like, she's got money and stuff, and food. She got enough of everything, bro.
So the murderer asked,
Where do you live?
Ivar replied,
Okay, bro, that time I think you licked my ear a little bit when you whispered, and that was, like, super weird, but, like, I'm gonna show you where I live anyway, because I kind of trust you, bro.
Here's my hut.
Here's my hut, dude. Check it out.
The robber made the same sign on his door, too. Ivar said,
Okay, bro, like, but what's this one for?
and the robber said,
I like you very much. The next time I come here, I will stop at your house and spend the night. Believe me, brother, you will profit by it.
The robber licked his ear and returned to his band, related all that had happened, and they decided to rob and kill everyone in the houses with the 2 brothers to recover their gold. Meanwhile, the poor man came home and said,
Dude, like, I just totally made a friend. Like, it was some young dude, and he, like, smeared my door with paint, like, kind of tugged my ear a little bit, which was weird, because he was, like, always super close, but, like, he said he's gonna come stay the night, bro. Sleepovers. Whenever he next visits the village, bro. Like, he's so nice, and he was so sorry for, like, how my brother was decapitated, which he seemed to know even before I told him, which was totes weird.
His son and wife listened in silence, but his adopted daughter said to him, like, my father, didn't you make a mistake? Perhaps the same robbers who killed my uncle, like, have now discovered that their gold is missing and are trying to find us. Now they may have come to rob us, and maybe even you won't escape like our death. Emo.
I'm sorry about. Yeah.
Ivar was frightened and said,
Dude, that's like crazy, bro. I never thought about that. Like, I guess he was a stranger and he did oddly lick my neck and paint my door. So, like, maybe you're right. Like, what should we do?
his daughter said, bro, got it.
We should all lock our doors and cry.
Take some of this paint and smear the same sign on all the doors of the neighborhood. Yeah. Just the whole fucking city. Yeah.
You know that bitch Karen down the street just hit her.
The peasant did this, and when the robbers came, they could not find anything. They went back and thrashed their scout for not having made the signs properly. Finally, they decided not to have been outwitted by a clever person, and after a while prepared 7 barrels. They put the robbers in each of them, except for one they had filled with oil. The former scout took these barrels straight to the poor brother's house and arrived at sunset and asked whether he could stay overnight. The poor brother welcomed him as a friend, and the daughter went to the yard and began to inspect the barrels. She opened one and found oil, and she tried to open another, but she could not. She put her ear to it and heard someone stirring and breathing inside. She thought,
in here.
dude, that's like an evil rouse. Not cool.
Not cool.
So she came into the house and said, Father, we must treat our guests, and I will make a fire in the stove and prepare something for dinner. Because I got the munch.
She got the munch.
I feel like you might got the munch too. Do you got the munch, brah?
Totes.
Yeah. And the daughter made a fire in the stove, and while cooking supper, she boiled water and poured it into the barrels, thus scalding the 6 robbers to death. Her father and his guest ate supper, and the daughter sat in the back room waiting to see what would happen next. When the host went to bed, the guest went out into the yard and whistled, but no one answered. He approached the barrels, and steam came out of them. The robber guessed what had happened, harnessed his horse, and left with the barrels. The daughter closed the door and went to rouse her family, and told them what she had done. Her father said,
Well, little daughter, you totes saved our lives there. Now, be my son's wife and get cooking.
There was a gay fest and a wedding, and the young bride kept telling her father that he should sell his old house and buy a new one, for she was very much afraid of the robbers who might return sooner or later. And her fears came true. After some time, the robber who had come to them with the barrels, disguised himself as an officer, came to the peasant's house and asked whether he could spend the night. He was admitted, but no one guessed anything, but the young bride recognized him and said, Father, this is the same robber who came before. And Ivor said,
No, my daughter, it's totally not. This guy fully has a fake mustache.
She did not answer. I feel like he just added an eye patch. She did not answer, but when bedtime came, she put a sharp axe beside her and stayed awake all night watching. In the middle of the night, the pretended officer rose, took his saber, and was about to cut off her husband's head. She did not lose her presence of mind, but swung her axe and cut off his right hand. And she swung again and cut off his head. Her father now realized that his daughter was very, very, very wise. And he followed her advice, sold his old house, and bought himself a hotel. He moved to his new residence and began to prosper and increase his trade. His neighbors, the same who had given him money and later sued him in court, stopped by his bed and breakfast. And they asked,
How do you happen to be here?
Ivor says,
Bro, this is my house. Nah, I bought it recently.
The neighbors said,
It's a magnificent house. Apparently you earn money. Why don't you pay your debts?
The host bowed and said,
Bro, I've been super lucky. I found a bunch of treasure and I put it into Pepe, and Pepe took off straight to the moon, bro. And now I've got you 3 folds.
And they said,
Fantastic, brother. I don't understand a word of what you said, but let's celebrate with the housewarming and we will take the money.
And so they had a good time. And near the house, there was a beautiful garden. His neighbors asked,
Can we look at your bush?
Ivar says,
Bro, totally. I like manscaped this morning. Come back here into this other room. I'll accompany you.
They walked and walked in the gardens, and in a remote corner found the tub full of ashes. When the host saw it, he gasped and then said,
Bro, that's like my mother.
And the neighbors said,
Well, let's see if the money was really in the ashes.
And they shook the tub and found the money. Then the neighbors believed the peasant had told them the truth. They said,
Well, let's examine the trees in the woods. The raven who snatched the cap must have built the nest.
They walked and walked and then saw the nest, pulled it down with hooks, and there was the cap. They threw out the nest and found the money. And the host paid his debt and to his neighbors and began to live in prosperity and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
The end.
And then they all lost all of their money because they made poor investments in cryptocurrency thanks to a commercial with Matt Damon.
Now they learned to pull out. First they went to GameStop and then
They got rich off the GameStop rush, but they lost all their money on the meme coins.
Nope, because they reinvested it into the marijuana stock when it was popular. And then bounced out just as everyone was
smart.
peaking
They
on
got
it.
into real estate. Mm-hmm. And they got into fake estate.
Bed and breakfast. That's where they
go.
The money
is.
They're in the fucking
got a virtual
Airbnb
bed and breakfast.
shit.
I got a virtual bed and breakfast in the meta universe that you can VR to.
Moving on to the second
story.
Possibly the last. Sorry, guys. It's called The Magic Box.
Where's that?
Dick in a box. Dick in the magic box.
The magic box.
An old couple had a son named Igor. When he grew up, his father did not know what trade to teach him, but finally decided to apprentice him to a master who made all kinds of objects. He went to town and agreed with the master that the boy should be his apprentice for 3 years and come home only once during that time. Then he brought his son to the master, and the young fellow lived with him for 1 year, and then for another, and soon learned how to make precious things that surpassed his master. Once he made a clock worth about 500 rubles and sent it to his father. He said,
Perhaps he can sell it and ease his misery.
But the father would not even think of selling it. He could not feast his eyes on it enough of the clock even, because his son had made it. Finally, the day for the young fellow's visit to his parents, and his master was a magician. And he says,
Go! I give you 3 hours and 3 minutes. If you fail to return on time, you will perish.
Igor thought,
Oh, how shall I travel so many versts to my father?
Answering his thoughts, the master said,
Take this carriage. As soon as you sit down, blink your eyes.
Our fellow did this, and no sooner did he blink his eyes than he found himself at his father's house. He stepped down from the carriage and came into the room, but no one was there. His father and mother, seeing a carriage drive up to their house, had been frightening, and they hid themselves in a cupboard near the stove.
Doc, it's the police.
It took their son a long time to persuade them to come out, and they greeted one another. The mother wept, for they had not seen each other in a long time, and the son gave them presents he had brought for them. While they exchanged blessings and conversed, time passed away. 3 hours passed, actually. Only 3 minutes remain.
The mother wept because she had to flush her stash.
Now only 2, now only 1. An evil spirit whispered in the young man's ear.
That's an interesting. Just whispering into his eye. Yeah, okay.
Hurry up, else your master will take your task.
Ow, you spit in my eye.
He'll take your testicles.
He'll take your testes.
The young man was worried and said farewell to his parents and left. Soon he arrived at his master's house, and an evil spirit tormented his master because the apprentice was late. Igor apologized to his master and fell at his feet and said,
Oh, forgive me for being late. I will never do it again.
The master only cheated him and truly forgave him. Our young man resumed his former life and began to make all sorts of things better than anyone else. The master thought,
If Igor leaves me, he will take my trade away, for he is now better than his master.
and so he commanded him.
Apprentice, go to the underground kingdom and bring me a little box that stands on the king's throne.
So together they made a long ladder by sewing one thong to another and attached the little bell at each seam.
Sew all my thongs together and make a ladder.
The master lowered his apprentice into the ravine and told him to pull one thong as soon as he got it to the box.
You may think there's clothes under this robe, but it is only underwear. Lacy, frilly, and straight up my anus. Only the finest thongs.
The master lowered his apprentice into the ravine and told him to pull one thong as soon as he got the box. This would set the bells into ringing, and the master would hear him. The young man went down into the earth and saw a house and entered it. A score of peasants rose from their seats and bowed to him, and in one voice said,
Welcome, Prince Igor.
The young man was surprised. What an honor. He entered another room, and it was full of women. They too stood up and bowed to him and said,
Welcome, Prince Igor.
all these people had been sent there by their master. Then the young man went into the third room. There he saw a throne, and on the throne a box. He took the box, went from the house, and all the people followed after him. They came to the throng ladder, shook it, and tied a man to it, and the master pulled it. The apprentice intended to tie himself to the ladder with the box. When all the others had been raised up, the master pulled out half the people. Suddenly, one of his workers came running to tell him that an accident had happened in his shop. The master had ordered his worker to pull everyone out from the underground except for the peasant's son, Igor.
Uh-oh.
And everyone and left on the spot. So all the people were pulled out by the throngs, and only our young man was left. Poor Igor.
Poor Igor.
He walked and walked in the underground kingdom, and at last happened to shake the box. Thereupon a dozen strong fellows appeared and asked,
Up. What is Prince Igor's desire?
Igor said,
Oh, pull me up to the surface.
The men seized him and lifted him out. He did not go to his master, but to his father. Meanwhile, the master remembered the box, ran to the ravine, and shook the ladder, but his apprentice was gone. The master thought,
Apparently he has gone off somewhere. I must send someone for him.
After some time, the peasant's son chose a fertile spot, tossed the box from hand to hand, and suddenly 24 strong fellows appeared. They said,
Oh, what is it you desire, Prince Igor?
Igor says,
Oh, I would like a pyramid of man flesh. Build me a kingdom on this spot and let it be better than all the other kingdoms.
In no time, the kingdom was there. Our young man established himself there, married, and began to live gloriously. Ooh. Not even generously, gloriously. In his kingdom, there was a little fellow.
Strong man.
In his kingdom, there was a little fellow, quite insignificant, whose mother often came to Prince Igor begging for alms. Her son says to her,
Mother, steal the little box from my king.
and one day Prince Igor was not at home, and his wife gave the old woman alms and left the room. The old woman snatched the box, put it in a bag, and brought it to her son. He tossed the box from hand to hand, and the same strong fellows jumped out. He ordered them to cast Prince Igor into the deep ditch, where only cattle carcasses were thrown, and disposed of his wife and his parents. He made them lackeys, or banished them somewhere. He himself became king.
Oh, that was a quick turnaround.
He's insignificant, though, remember?
He's insignificant. I know, like how they say. An insignificant little character is going to alter the entirety of the story.
And so Igor sat on the ditch sat in the ditch a whole day, and then a second, and then a third. How could he get out? He saw a huge bird dragging a carcass. Just then a dead animal was thrown into the ditch, so he tied himself to it, and the bird swooped down, snatched the carcass, carried it out, and perched on a pine tree. Prince Igor dangled there, for he could not untie himself.
Oh, now I have tied too good.
I have mascara running into my eyes.
Uh-oh. It's a sad story. What's that
Makes me
crying?
even more sad. Quack.
He can't get out of the stuff.
A huntsman appeared, took him, and shot him.
Shot him or the bird?
I think the bird. The bird took wing and flew away, dropping the dead cow from his claws. The cow fell, and Prince Igor fell with it. He untied himself and walked down the road, wondering how to recover his kingdom. He felt in his pocket, and there was a key of the box. He tossed it, and 2 strong men jumped out.
Hip, hip.
They said,
Ah, what do you desire, Prince Igor?
Igor said,
Oh, to say, brothers, I'm in trouble.
the strong men said,
Hup, hup, hup. We know it. It is lucky that we two remained with the key.
Prince Igor said.
Oh, could you bring me the box, brothers?
And Prince Igor had no sooner said that than the 2 men brought him the box. When he beheld it, he took to heart, ordered the beggar woman and her son to be put to death, and became king as before. The end.
Such a quick wrap up, too. I like the idea of the huntsman shooting at him, not the bird.
He was like, what the fuck is that? Shoot it.
He's like, oh, yeah, no, that bird's endangered, dickhole.
He probably thought that the fucking cow was giving birth to some zombified fucking creature covered in blood.
Kill it! Yeah, well, that was our stories, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. We had taken a couple weeks off, kind of spontaneously, had some family. So we're back.
Yeah.
Gonna try to be back a little more regularly.
Yes.
You know, all of you know, life happens. Every human being knows that.
Still have King Arthur to come.
Yeah, we still got a bunch of good stuff coming down the pipe.
Yes.
Yeah. So be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, all that stuff. You know, notification stuff. I don't know how that works, but set it up so that you can tell when there's a new episode. Yeah, and let us know in any form of comments or find us on Twitter. Anything you liked about it, didn't like about our stories, anything you want us to cover.
You want to troll us? Come troll us.
Come troll us.
It's
yeah,
fine.
we like the trolls. We did do a lot of Norse mythology, so you know we've got a lot of reference material for trolls. Yeah. Find us on Twitter at HowleyBoys, HAOLE_BOYS.
Merch store,
teespring.com/high-mythology-merch.
Yes.
Get some merch, and yeah, we will see you guys next week.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.